How do we not have a peep in the Gleason?
Oh, talking more flat Earth. This is the thing I want to ask the round Earth people to explain to me.
Okay, I'll do my best.
If the Earth is spinning, it's 700 miles an hour, 1100 miles an hour, whatever.
Well, that's its linear velocity, but we aren't spinning linearly. In order to say how fast the Earth is revolving, you need to use angular velocity, and the Earth is actually spinning at 1 rotation per day. So while its linear velocity is high, it's not really an accurate way of measuring it because, again, the Earth isn't spinning linearly, it's moving around an axis point. So you need to use rotational velocity, which is 1 rotation per day, which isn't very fast.
Why isn't the air spinning? And before you add...
Why isn't the air spinning? The air is spinning. The air is spinning with the Earth, right? The atmosphere sticks to the Earth via gravity, and it turns along with the Earth.
It's real fast and say, oh, it's all relative, it's all the same shit. The higher you go in the air, the less atmosphere there is until there's almost no atmosphere.
Correct. It's a gradient because the closer you are to the Earth, the more effect gravity is going to have on the particles that make up the atmosphere. So as you go up further, there's less gravity, so more and more particles of the atmosphere are able to escape the gravitational pull, which is why at a certain point, if you get up high enough, the atmosphere stops, because at that point, gravity isn't having a strong enough effect on the particles that make up our atmosphere, so they just fly out into space and disperse. Thank you to Squid, 100 bits. What is wind? You know, the thing that, are you actually asking me what wind is? Wind is when you have, basically, air that's warmer in one area and cooler than another, and due to how thermodynamics work, warmth is always going to try and seek cooler areas. It's always going to try and equalize to an extent. So wind happens when in one area there's warmer air and one area there's cooler air, and the warmer air tries to come in and equalize, and that causes the wind.
Like 40,000 feet up, there's almost no atmosphere. So where is the break?
What do you mean break? The break between space and the Earth? I mean, it's not well defined. It's a gradient, right? No one says that there's an exact cutoff point. You can estimate and find an average at which point there's basically no particles, but it's a gradient. So it's not going to be this like hard line area.
Where you get away from the atmosphere in which it's no longer relative.
What do you mean no longer relative? What are you talking about?
This is a lot harder than I expected, proving that the Earth is round.
What? You're not proving what? You're trying to do the opposite. You're trying to concern troll and say misinformation about how the globe works as evidence for a flat Earth. And here's the thing I don't get about flat earthers. Even if they somehow disproved that the Earth was round, which they haven't done, as you might imagine, even if they did that, that wouldn't prove the Earth was flat. You would then have to come up with actual evidences that that is the case, and that's the model that is the most correct. But instead of doing that, because of course they can't do that, either due to lack of science education or the ability to make experiments that actually work, and also on top of that, the Earth isn't flat, so even if they did know how to do that, it would show that they're wrong. So they don't do that. They spend all their time trying to disprove the globe model that we all recognize and understand is correct and have for thousands of years.
It's fucking weird. It is way, way, way harder. The jet stream's 100 miles an hour.
Yes, correct. The jet stream is a different thing, though. The jet stream is like parts of air. It's air moving through the atmosphere in different areas for different reasons. Again, it has to do with... Oh, God, I am just dying of sweat. It has to do with, like... Again, differences in temperature, and therefore we have currents of air that are constantly moving from place to place within the atmosphere, right? The atmosphere as a whole spins with the Earth, but then within the atmosphere and its system, you have air moving.
You ever see 100-mile-per-hour winds? Yeah, 1,000 miles per hour ain't happening. Dude, I'm telling you, it's...
I mean, yes. Have you ever been in an airplane? You can see this, right? Because flights going with the jet stream are quicker than flights going against the jet stream. Because when you're going with the jet stream, you are moving faster, right? Relative to the ground, because the jet stream is propelling you forward because you're a part of it. The opposite is true if you're going against the jet stream. You're having to fight against the air pushing against you, so it takes longer. So this is demonstrably true.
Fucked up. So, if the Earth is spinning 1,100 miles an hour, and the atmosphere somehow miraculously is attached to the Earth, is that...
It's not miraculous, it's gravity. It's gravity. We didn't just say, and it's attached via magic. No, it's gravity. We can measure gravity. We can see its effects. It's testable. It's gravity.
What kind of friction?
Like Isaac Newton outlined this shit. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear for my YouTube uploads so I don't get demonetized. If you can't tell today, I'm trying to swear less. Newton outlined this stuff like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This is not a recent concept, and our understanding of gravity has only gotten better over time.
Is that sliding friction? Is when the molecules are touching, so sliding friction is moving it along, right? Fine. When you go up enough, there's no more atmosphere.
Yeah, if you go up high enough, the gradient will eventually dissipate to the point where there is virtually no atmosphere. And then if you get farther enough away, yes, there will be no atmosphere because you'll be so far away from the Earth that the Earth cannot hold atmosphere particles, basically the particles of the different gases that make up the atmosphere. They can't hold those particles to the Earth, so they fly off into space.
So you are now just, like if you're in a hot air balloon that goes up 30,000 miles, there's no atmosphere.
Okay, I don't think you can take a hot air balloon that high up. Let me see what the max height for hot air balloon. 41,424 meters. That's how far you can get up in a hot air balloon. What's the maximum height? Maximum height can fly all the way up to space. This person says the maximum height of a hot air balloon ride is usually set by the pilot and government regulations. Physical limits may also come into play depending on the design considerations. There must be sufficient air aloft to be displaced by lighter heated air so you can float higher. So if you got into a place with no atmosphere, if you were able to somehow get up that high, which would be difficult in the first place, because as you get higher up in the atmosphere, you see this when people climb even just tall mountains like Mount Everest, oxygen becomes a concern, because as you go up higher in the atmosphere, there's a lower concentration of oxygen. Again, this has to do with gravity. As you get further away from the center of the Earth, the gravitational pull decreases. Therefore, more air particles are going to be able to escape into space. So you have thinner air. That's what people are talking about when there's thinner air. So if you go up high enough in a hot air balloon, right? Eventually, you're not going to go up any higher. There's a hard limit. Because the entire thing that's making you go up is the fact that the hot air in the hot air balloon is trying to rise above the cooler air around it. But once you get to a point where there's not enough cooler air around it in order for it to push through, it's going to stop working. It would be like asking... How do I put this? Because hot air balloons sort of work on like a buoyant force type of thing. Again, it has to do with the lighter hot air trying to move above the other air. It would be like asking if I inflated a balloon underwater and then let it go, and let's say it's like I just fill it with breath, not helium, and I let it go underwater, and then it hits the surface and it just kind of sits there. It would be like you asking, well, why doesn't the balloon keep going upward? Well, because it's reached a point where the buoyant force is not strong enough to continue it moving upwards, right? It's reached the point where it is above the stuff that is denser than it, and it is lower than the stuff that is lighter than it.
So if you... Why isn't the Earth flying by?
The guy who space jumped was the max height for a balloon? Okay, interesting.
Stop talking about this? Now you're banned. Why don't you... Enjoying Coddington Bear. The fuck out of here. No one needs your shit. There's no wind because we are in a vacuum. We both know that doesn't make any sense. And I'm not a flat earth person. I want someone to fucking explain.
He becomes a flat earth person. I'm assuming this is him early in his journey to being a flat earther. But yeah, he becomes an avid flat earther to the point where he didn't even think the moon existed at one point. I have no idea what this guy's up to today, but...
that to me. Atomic density? Saying words don't explain anything. Just saying...
First of all, good grammar. Second of all, yes, words are the only way you can explain something. Just because you don't understand what those words mean doesn't mean the words that are being spoken to you are not an explanation. It means you have to go and look up what those words mean.
Atomic density. Friction. I just said that. There's several types of friction. That friction would be the sliding friction, where it's two objects touching each other, kind of like two boards. You have to go at a certain speed. If you go too fast, you slip, right? So if you go at the right speed...
It's still going to affect it, though. And yes, the atmosphere has a viscosity, right? So when the Earth moves, it affects the atmosphere around it. Not only because of gravity, but also because of friction force, right? The atmosphere is touching the ground. It's not like if you get down to the ground, you can't breathe because there's no air there. So at the surface of the Earth, the atmosphere is touching it, and the atmosphere is touching the other atmospheric particles above it and all throughout the atmosphere. So as it all turns, it all moves together.
You carry the other board with you. We have molecules of the atmosphere, and if it's attached to our spinning shit, fine. You go up 40,000 feet, there's no atmosphere, none. It's basically a vacuum. So
I mean, basically a vacuum isn't a vacuum, though, right? I don't know exactly how far away the actual end of our atmosphere is, but it goes on pretty far. I think they've found, like, particles of the atmosphere as far as, like, the moon. That doesn't mean that it's effectively an atmosphere, because in actuality you still can't breathe there, but they can still detect some minute particles there, right, of our atmosphere, because they're still somewhat connected to the Earth's gravity. But this is kind of the problem with determining, like, things that are gradients, where it ends. It kind of depends at what concentration you decide it is effectively no longer the atmosphere.
Where do you pop out of that situation? The jet stream, that's 100 miles an hour, not 1,100. And when you're out of the atmosphere...
Right, because the jet stream has nothing to do with the Earth's rotation.
When you're going west to east or east to west, I can't remember which way, why is the Earth not flying by underneath?
Because you're moving in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is moving with the spin of the Earth.
You're not in that anymore. So far, no one's been able to explain that to me, which is fucking weird.
Well, you seem to be banning everyone who tries to explain it to you, so that would do it. And hey, I get it. On your own YouTube channel, you can ban whoever you want. I don't really care. I do the same with some people I don't like. You can ban people on your YouTube channel. More power to you. I get it, but if you're actively, like, asking questions like this, and then when people come and try and explain the answer to you, you ban them, then you're not really asking questions. You're concern trolling. That's a very different thing.
Please comment on it.
The jet stream is 100 miles per hour relative to atmospheric motion. Yes, thank you.
I would love to stay a globe Earth person, because being a flat Earth person is another level of ostracism that I really don't want at all. So please, for the love of God, someone fucking explain to me why, when you leave the Earth's atmosphere, does the Earth not, at that point, appear to be going 1,100 miles an hour underneath you?
I mean, it does. You can look at, like, things that are outside of the atmosphere and see the Earth spinning. Live feed of Earth from space. Thank you to thousands of retirees for following. Welcome to the stream. NASA usually has a live stream. Sometimes it's down for repairs. But yeah, see, you can see it, right? So they're outside of the atmosphere, or at least in an area where there's very, very little atmosphere. They're in a place where it's, you know, a vacuum. They're in space. And you can see the Earth spinning below them. And, of course, this guy's going to be like, that doesn't look like it's going 1,100 miles per hour. Well, that's because, again, you're comparing linear velocity, and not only that, but you're very, very far away from the surface of the Earth. Even though this doesn't look that fast because you're so far away from it, it's moving very fast. It's a huge object spinning and rotating 1 rotation per day. Which is a little bit of a cheat, because a day is defined by the Earth's rotation, but that's what it is, right? It spins 1 time 360 degrees per day. It takes quite a while, because it's a huge object. Now, it's still going, I mean, quick. I'm not saying that's not quick for such a massive object. But again, from space, from that far away, it doesn't appear that quick, even though it is. Like, if you were to look on a map at how quick this is moving, you would see yourself moving just frickin' crazy fast across it. Because, again, you're so far away, it just looks slow. It's like when you're driving down the highway as a kid, and you're a passenger, and you're looking at faraway objects, and even though you're going like 70, 80 miles per hour or whatever, or let's say you're German, and you're on the Autobahn, and you're going, you know, 150 kilometers per hour, whatever, and you look out at the distance, the things don't appear to be moving that quick. It's because they're far away. It's how things work. Things far away look to be moving slower than things up close. Yes, you're covering less angular momentum from the same, or less angular rotation, rather, for the same distance, yeah. The ISS orbits the Earth 16 times a day. Oh yeah, so it's moving even quicker.
Here's another one. Why do flights not go around the poles? Please explain.
Wait, what did you just say?
Why do flights not go around the poles?
There's nothing funny.
Why would flights go around the North or South Pole? What would the purpose of that flight be? You could, I guess, but why would you do that?
Please.
Squid with 100 bits. What is perspective? Still not actually asking.
Please explain this to me, because I do not like where the logic is taking any of this. It's not fun. It's actually incredibly isolating, and I don't want it at all. The last thing I need in my life is to be given another label that makes me look insane.
Okay, then maybe actually talk to experts, and I know it's such a drain on the scientific community to have to explain things to these people time and time again, which is why you get idiots like me having to do so wearing a tinfoil hat to try and hopefully get someone feeling the same way that this guy does, and say, wait a minute, let me try and explain what's going on here. I know you don't understand it, and I'm not going to say you're stupid, because asking questions is fine. The problem is when you ask for answers, and then you get the real answer from someone who actually knows what they're talking about, and then you go, I don't know, doesn't sound right to me. Like, listen, I understand. Skepticism is a good thing, but when you're so skeptical that when experts explain a simple concept to you that's been understood for hundreds, if not thousands of years, you go, I don't know, doesn't sound intuitive to me. That's frustrating. It's frustrating that you're not able to understand that you're not the first person to come up with these questions. These questions have been asked and answered, and it's great if you want to go and seek out those answers to educate yourself, but every step of the way saying that you disagree with literally hundreds, and again in some cases thousands of years of not only science but observations, is just exhausting. It's just so exhausting. I understand. I understand. If you want to be curious about the world, that's awesome. Go to school, learn how to actually do science, get a degree in some field you want to study. But being some keyboard warrior that thinks they're gonna debunk science, it's not doing anyone any good. So maybe don't do that. Daddy Sume with a bit. This is really depressing. That music and the desperate loneliness in his voice is really getting to me. I know.
That sounds awful. Someone said not flat. Well, please fucking tell me how you can go up into near-Earth orbit and stay still, and the Earth is not flying by?
Because of the conservation of momentum. Do you understand how momentum works? And the fact that if you're in the atmosphere, even on the edge of it, you're still moving with the atmosphere?
If it's spinning on a goddamn axis. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't explain it, can you? The fuck? Inertia, that doesn't mean a goddamn thing, and we both...
Yes, it does, though. This is what I'm talking about. Someone literally explains to him, inertia is a property of matter. When you are moving, unless something stops you, like friction, you will continue moving in perpetuity. Objects in motion stay in motion. Objects at rest stay at rest. These are basics of physics. And if someone says to you, the answer is inertia, your gut response shouldn't be, that word doesn't mean anything. Calm down. If you don't know what inertia means, that's okay. I don't want you to feel bad for not knowing what that word means. That's fine. All day, every day, people are encountering, especially in the information age, words and concepts that they might not have understood or heard of before. So what you do then is you take out your phone or your computer and you just take a search. Search what the word means. If you don't know what inertia means, search it, read about it, and then go, oh, that's what inertia means. It has a meaning. So when someone says to me the reason is inertia, I should understand that what they're saying is, you know, what the definition of inertia is. Just because you don't understand a word or a concept doesn't mean it doesn't mean something.
Both know it. Inertia. It just says inertia. You don't think I know about inertia?
I don't think you do. I think if I asked you right now what inertia was, I think you wouldn't understand and wouldn't be able to explain it to me.
Owen is dumber than I thought, says Martin. Okay, Martin, you're no longer allowed to talk to the grown-ups.
Oh, Squid with 1,000 bits. Thank you so much. Squid, get out of bed, you lazy bum. No, I can't. Why not? The Newton laws. Psychics.
Obviously not dumb. If I was dumb, 3,552 people wouldn't be watching me after 2 hours and 11 minutes of...
That's not a good explanation. Just because you're incorrect about something doesn't mean people won't watch you. Like, I have 156 people watching right now. There were 160 earlier. Someday there may be more. Maybe there'll be less. I don't know. But the amount of viewers you have is not relative to how intelligent or informed you are. And I don't mean to, like, insult anyone, but this is the go-to example, so I'll say it anyway. The Kardashians, for instance, have tons of fans and viewers. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're into celebrity stuff, I'm not going to fault you for it. It's not for me, but if you like it, whatever. I don't care. That doesn't mean that the Kardashians are brilliant, right? You can have tons of people follow you and like you, despite the fact that you're wrong about a lot of things. There are tons of people who are charismatic or have something about them that people like, regardless of if what they have to say is substantive or evidence-based. They're completely divorced concepts. It's why, like in D&D, charisma is a completely different stat from intelligence or wisdom, right? They're different things. All you need to get people to listen to you is some charisma.
Me just talking. Dumb people don't retain that amount of people. You're just a stupid person. The worst is, like, I obviously understand physics.
No, you do not. You clearly don't.
790 out of 800 on my physics PSATs, right? It's like one question I got wrong. I understand.
I would need to see that to believe that, to be completely honest. And again, if you can do math and plug things into equations, it doesn't mean you understand the underlying principles or how to apply that to big objects like the Earth.
I understand physics very, very well. Not on a level of, like, MIT or anything like that, but on a basic way above average level. I understand the
SAT, physics. SAT, subject test in physics. Preliminary SAT is what PSAT stands for. Physics subject test. The physics subject test assesses your understanding of concepts from 1 year of introductory physics on the college preparatory level, as well as reasoning and problem-solving skills derived from lab experience. If you're thinking about pursuing a math or science-based program of study, such as science, technology, engineering, or math, taking the physics subject test is a great way to demonstrate your interests on your college application. That's a physics subject test. I think that's different than a PSAT. So I'm not sure, although, of course, this guy went and took the SATs quite a while ago. Even in this video, which is some years old, he looks to be in his early 30s, maybe, so.
The principles of physics. The Earth isn't flat. That's fucking insane. Why can no one explain to me how the globe is spinning at 1,100 miles an hour, and if you break the fucking atmosphere, even out of relative, whatever relative is, and you're flying in a direction opposed to the spinning, why don't you double your speed? Like if you go,
because you're still moving in the atmosphere, right? If I'm moving in an airplane in the opposite direction of the spin of the Earth, I'm still moving within the Earth, right? Does that make sense? I'm still moving with the atmosphere. I'm moving within the atmosphere, but while I am moving within the atmosphere, I'm moving with it as well.
Going 1,100 miles an hour. Why is it not 2,200 miles an hour?
Because you haven't broken free of the inertia and your connection to the atmosphere. You are still traveling within it.
The Earth is going the opposite direction. What the fuck is that? So far, I've got nothing on it. No one can explain it. Okay, guys, all the people saying that the Earth is round, there's no way they understand the particle density and radio theory. So when they say everyone's retarded who thinks the Earth is flat, they don't understand why they think the Earth is round, is my bottom line.
No, I think I pretty well understand it.
They don't. So when people just go, oh, well, it's clearly just radio theory and fucking frequency and fucking particle. No,
I have no idea what he's talking about.
You don't know. You don't know. And you're trying to fucking hold on to something that you don't understand.
No. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If tomorrow it actually came out that the Earth wasn't round and space didn't exist or something, it would be interesting, but it wouldn't change my life, like, at all. It would not change my everyday life. This show would get a lot more interesting, that's for sure. But, like, at the end of the day, it wouldn't really change my life all that much. I have no emotional connection to the shape of the Earth.
And that's the problem I have. Is people with this condescending, shitty attitude, but they don't actually know anything. But they go, oh, I mean, you're such a fucking idiot. Like, what?
You literally are doing the same thing, though. People are explaining to you that inertia is the reason for some of these things, and then you scream at them and ban them. Void Harpy, thank you for continuing your subscription. 3-month streak, awesome. Thank you.
Why would then explain to me how you can go above the atmosphere and you do not see a spinning Earth. Explain to me how NASA shows us images of the Earth that are photoshopped. The clouds are fucking duplicates of the other clouds in the...
Yeah. Yep. Because they take... Again, I've explained this before, too, in some other Flat Earth videos. A lot of the images you see of the Earth are composite images. It works a little bit like when you take, like, a panoramic photo. And, like, let's say you're at the Grand Canyon or somewhere and you want to take a panoramic photo, and what you do is you know, set the panorama setting on your camera, and then you move the camera. And then your phone will take all the images that your phone takes as you're moving it, and it'll stitch them together. It doesn't mean that what was taken in that panorama doesn't exist. It just means that it's so large, you had to move the camera lens across to catch it all, and then it stitches it together. Similar things happen with a lot of images that NASA takes of the Earth, because even satellites are still very close to the surface of the Earth relative to its size. They take photos as it moves across the surface, and then they stitch them together. And then, for artistic reasons, to make it look kind of more like the Earth, they'll sometimes Photoshop stuff like clouds in. It's not complicated. It doesn't make the photos fake any more than, like, you can take a photo of anything, put it in Photoshop, clean it up, change some stuff, whatever. Doesn't mean the Earth isn't round. It just means that NASA wants their photos to look nice, like everyone else.
Fucking thing. Does that not ring any bells? And I'm incapable of going with lies. I'm fucking capable of it. The Earth isn't flat. There's no fucking way the Earth is flat.
Correct. So why are you taking this whole video to concern troll and act as though the Earth is flat when it isn't?
That would probably cause me some type of nervous breakdown if that were the case. So, can someone, for the love of everything good, explain to me without nonsense talk like, oh, inertia. Oh,
That's not nonsense. You're asking someone to explain to you scientific principles and our scientific understanding without using any words that are used in science. What? Oh, frustrating. Let me check my card. Doesn't understand how cameras work because of the Photoshop panorama thing.
Inertia. Do you know what inertia means? Do you understand the calculations of inertia? No, you fucking don't.
I don't know how to calculate inertia, but I understand enough to know that it is a concept and to know what it means in relation to our spin on the Earth. I understand that it means that we're all moving along with the Earth, and because of inertia, if I jump up in the air, I'm going to continue moving with it even though I'm not technically touching it anymore, which is something you don't seem to understand. So I don't think you understand inertia well enough to talk about it, much less try and discredit it as a concept as a whole.
It doesn't answer a goddamn thing just to say inertia. Why the fuck a spinning globe, when you're going against it, it doesn't fly underneath you?
It does, though. It does. I literally used that as an example to be hyperbolic, but you then use that as an actual example. What is wrong with you?
Coriolis effect proves the Earth isn't flat. I believe that as well. I really hope we have more than the Coriolis effect. Really hope we have more than that, guys. Really hope we have more than the Coriolis effect. If the Earth is flat, why lie about it being round? What is the point? I can tell you a lot of reasons.
That's always my question, too, and the one constant I find with flat earthers, a lot of flat earthers are very religious. It's almost like creationism taken to an extreme, where they believe that, again, the Christian Bible says that the Earth is flat. It does. In Genesis, it talks about the firmament. I've talked about this before. The firmament in biblical cosmology is this. It basically is the idea that Earth is flat. Underneath the Earth is Sheol, which is the Jewish, like, afterlife, the, like, place, the land of the dead. It's a little bit like Hades in Greek mythology. Then you have, you know, just water underneath. Then you have a dome known as the firmament, and you can find the firmament in Genesis. This is where this model comes from. And then you have the sun, the clouds, the moon, which are within that dome of the firmament, including the stars. And then you have more water above the firmament, because the sky is blue. And of course, back in the day, before people, you know, had science or an understanding of what the atmosphere was, they'd look at the sky and go, well, that's blue. The ocean kind of looks blue. That must be more ocean. Which, of course, we can laugh at today. But at the end of the day, they didn't have the experience or tools to know differently. So it's fine. So this incorrect model is the model that is mentioned in Genesis. That's fine. I'm not telling you you can't be religious because of that. You just need to accept that a lot of the things in the Bible were written by people who didn't know a lot about science, didn't know anything about science. And that's fine, as long as you don't take what they have to say word for word literally. There's no problem with that. So this is why some flat earthers will claim that science is lying about the shape of the earth in order to keep people from Christianity, which is not the case. It's not the case. Isaac Newton, for instance, who, like, discovered gravity. Isaac Newton was a Christian. A lot of scientists in the past were Christians. Many today even are. But in the past especially, tons of scientists were Christians, including people like Galileo, who discovered heliocentrism. You know, so it's just kind of silly to say that scientists are in on this conspiracy to try and make people not religious when they're not, especially because a lot of the people who founded, like, our understanding of modern cosmology were Christian themselves. Isaac Newton, one of his hobbies was biblical numerology. He also had a hobby of trying to turn lead into gold, but biblical numerology also up there, you know? He wasn't trying to keep people away from the truths of the universe. Principles of mathematics. Dedication. I forget how to say it in the original. Principia Mathematica. It was something like that. How do I spell this shit? Isaac Newton. Principles of mathematics. Dedication. I forget which scientist was it. I don't remember if it was Isaac Newton or if it was someone else, but they basically dedicated their book to, like, God. So, saying that they were, like, in on a conspiracy is ridiculous. Principia Mathematica.
I may tap out of YouTube for a while. Like, that would fuck me up. But I am not enjoying the path that this is taking me on, because the arguments for the Earth being round are not very strong at all.
They are, though. I understand you don't understand them, but that doesn't mean they're not strong. Anyway, that's all we're going to watch of this. I've had enough flat Earth for the day.